Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3 Iron and today we are doing our first week's economic overview of the Synthesis League. We've got timestamps that are provided for you directly above my slightly balding head, and they are hot linked down below in the video description. And of course you can like, subscribe, and ding the bell to be notified about more videos just like this one. So today we're taking a look at both the softcore and hardcore league economic overview, thanks to our friends at PoE Ninja for providing all of this wonderful data. So just a quick overview of what tradable currency looks like right now in softcore and in hardcore. You can see the Exalted Orb prices right now in softcore for trading are trading between about 97 to probably 95, just because there is price fixing that's always going on, especially with Exalted. So give or take 1 to 2 chaos here on this market ratio, but probably somewhere between 97, 98 and 95, 96 within the first week of the league. That is a wonderful rate. It's great to be in softcore, and if you're in softcore, that is a great rate to get in at, because Exalted prices are only going to go up as the league goes on. Usually they're going to peak out in between 150 to 160 before their first crash, usually the last couple of leagues, and by couple I mean 3 to 4. So from the last 3 to 4 leagues we've had a couple of crashes, usually around the 140 to 160 mark, and there's a couple of different reasons for that. We've got some videos on the channel that you can always go back and take a look on, and we'll cover those throughout the league as they happen, but that's where we're sitting at right now. So if you find an Exalted Orb and you want to hold on to it for more chaos down the road, that's fine. If you've got Exalteds and you want to flip them, then it's totally fine to flip them. One of the things that I do that's just a quick tip when I'm flipping Exalts or flipping currency in general is I will try to convert as much of my currency at the end of a play session into the type of currency that I believe has the most chance to rise in value overnight or over the weekend or in between my play sessions. So if you're holding on to a whole bunch of chaos, you might want to convert that into Exalted before you swap swap off of the game for the end of your play session, and vice versa. If it's the start of your play session, you may want to start converting your currency into more tradable currency that you can then flip during your play session. So that's just a little quick tip there on Exalted and Chaos. Another thing to note here about currency, Orb of Annulments, I believe these are going to be incredibly valued throughout the league. These are way undervalued right now, both in softcore and in hardcore. Right now they're trading at about 15 to 14 on the flip. And Orbs of Annulment, the more people figure out how to target craft things using the synthesis mechanic, the more these will go up. That's a prediction. That is not a guarantee, so it could be that I'm wrong. Feel free to come back and correct me if I'm totally wrong on that. But I think Orbs of Annulment are going to go up in their value because we're going to be using them a whole lot more. And if you and I aren't the ones that are using them as we're crafting, certainly other people are going to want to purchase them from us and then therefore use them themselves as they are using the synthesizer to create their own fractured and synthesized abominations of crafting gear throughout the league. So definitely think Orbs of Annulment will be on the rise. I think it's definitely something to invest in. It's something that I'm investing in hardcore. I wanted to highlight the differences between the hardcore and softcore markets right here by simply swapping over and taking a look at the hardcore synthesis market. You can see that Exalted Orbs are right now at about 56 to 54 is their ratio if you look at that. And if you're not even interested in hardcore whatsoever, if you're just a softcore player, I would just reference this to you just so that way you get kind of a sense for how the different leagues develop in terms of their timeline. And you might be wondering, Iron, why does this matter to me if I'm a softcore player? Well, actually, hardcore oftentimes gives you a better retention point to compare the value of a particular item or the value of a particular currency over the long term as currency eventually migrates into standard. So what that means is that prices in softcore might be a little bit more inflated. And so if they're going to come back, they're probably going to regress a little bit towards the prices in hardcore, and then they'll typically even out towards the end of a league at normalizing at the price that's available in standard. So right now is going to be, of course, the biggest gap, generally speaking, in prices and in value that we're going to see throughout a league. That could change, of course, all things could change, but that's just based on the data that we've got thus far through this league, based on previous leagues and how trading typically occurs. Also, take note in hardcore that Ancient Orbs are down right now, that they are continually going down. that they are not necessarily something that is being target farmed. And I would like to point that out, that this is very, very interesting, that whenever anybody discovers a trick to really use ancient orbs to turn into very high valued unique items that are otherwise typically chase items or otherwise typically staples of builds but rather expensive, whenever anybody figures that out, you see ancient orbs go through the roof. This is especially true in hardcore, because if you can simply ancient orb something very, very quickly into an item that you need, you don't necessarily need to farm several divination cards for it. You simply turn your currency basically directly into the item for cheaper than what the item otherwise might cost. So it's really interesting to see whenever harbingers are available and their currency is available in a league, how the ancient orb impacts that. All right, so enough about currency. Let's chat just really quickly about scarabs in both leagues. This is looking at synthesis scarabs in softcore. You can see at the top of the list is the gilded cartography scarab. That, of course, returns you maps, which maps are incredibly important within the first league or first week of a league, as everybody is trying to rush and fill out their atlas. There's tons of money to be made simply filling out your atlas and then selling the additional maps that you are not going to run. Then you've got the polished cartography scarab, which is coming in at the second place, which is amazing that both cartography scarabs are taking the first two spots for value of scarabs. Then you've got the gilded divination scarab and then the gilded sulfite scarab. Now, remember those four, because in hardcore, it's actually quite different, and it's fascinating. In hardcore, it's actually the sulfite scarab that is most valued at the top two spots. Then you've got the cartography scarab, but then you've got bestiary, then you've got elder, and then divination comes in all the way down at the sixth spot. It's very interesting to see how different leagues and the rippiness or loss of a character, the potential loss of characters and the very real loss of characters that happens, changes the economy. So sulfite scarabs and deep delving is incredibly powerful in hardcore, both for fossil farming but also simply for getting currency returns. And so it's very, very interesting how it's prioritized. You may be looking at simply the values, the chaos values of these scarabs, and really when you're comparing the economy between hardcore and softcore, you don't necessarily want to look at the numeric difference between chaos, because as you're looking and flipping between the two, you're going to go, oh well, one's worth 50, one's worth 27, what's the deal there? Well, again, the amount of currency that's floating around in the league and the amount of players that play in a league impact the amount of currency that's available. So that number we're not paying as much attention to, but rather we are paying attention to what scarabs are most valued and therefore most targeted. And in hardcore, it is definitely going to be sulfite scarabs coming in at the top two spots. Now, another difference that I wanted to highlight here between the two leagues was Headhunter. So this right now is the market for Headhunter in hardcore synthesis. There are presently 3 of them that are available online. These are showing all 3 results, and one of them is listed for 40, and here's the other one listed for 40. One of these guys is AFK, but I'm sure if you actually said, hey, I've got 40x for your Headhunter, he'd probably show back up. When you compare that with softcore synthesis, you've got 2 listings of Headhunter, which is interesting. I think the difference here in between the two leagues is simply that most people in softcore that have a Headhunter are probably using them and don't necessarily want to flip them or sell them at this point. Whereas if somebody has acquired a Headhunter in hardcore, it could be that their intention of acquiring that Headhunter was specifically to sell it. So I think that's some of the difference. But you've got a massive, massive price difference here between these two Headhunter belts. And I don't think the one at 80 is the better value, obviously, right? But I don't think that's a truer price for where we're going to see Headhunter be throughout the league, because we've still got things like the incursions where you can create Headhunters, and now of course we've got the Nemesis mod where you can chance Headhunters in maps through Zana. So I think Headhunters will be more prevalent throughout the league as time goes on, unless of course they've messed with the drop numbers or the chancing numbers. So I think that price will ultimately come down, but not too far down. Probably somewhere between 40 to 50 exalts is probably what you're looking at. The last comparison point between the two leagues that we wanted to look at today is Divination Cards. So looking in Synthesis Softcore, you've got House of Mirrors, which drops, I believe, from the Hall of Grandmasters. You've got the Doctor and the Fiend, both, of course, which ultimately leads you into either a regular Headhunter or a corrupted Headhunter. Then you've got Beauty Through Death, which actually provides you, I believe it's the Queen Sacrifice, which is the unique item based on Edziri's Mirror. And then you've got the Life Thief, which gives you Zerfi's Heart. Those are your top 5 cards right now in terms of price and value for softcore synthesis. When you compare that with hardcore synthesis, it's actually, again, fascinating to see the swap. So Beauty Through Death actually takes over at the top spot, and then the Doctor and the Fiend coming in for Headhunter, and then Immortal Resolve, which gives you the Prophecy Fated Connections, which will 6-link anything, which is incredibly powerful when you think about all of the rare items that are used in hardcore in order to keep people alive on their chest piece. Oftentimes is what that is used on rare goods for the chest piece. But occasionally it's used on a unique, but more often than not it's on incredibly pricey and incredibly tanky, survivable chess pieces that are going to make you an unkillable machine. Okay, so those are the really the top spots for currency, the top spots for scarabs, and the top spots for divination cards. By the way, I'd like to point this out. This is 100% a meme, and I'm not ashamed to share this meme. Farming divination cards, it ain't much, but it's honest work. Right now, if you're looking to make some money inside Path of Exile Synthesis League, it is never a bad idea, especially early on in the league, to get on a Magic Find character and to start farming either Abandoned Wealth or the Saint's Treasure. Saint's Treasure right now is going for 18 Chaos each, and you farm 10 of those and you get 2 Exalted Orbs. It's in the arcade map is where that drops, which isn't too high of a tier. And of course, if you'd like to make it a higher tier because you're looking to grind XP or simply want higher monsters, you can do that, of course, through using your Shaper Orb if you'd like to raise the level. But Saint's Treasure and Abandoned Wealth are 2 great ways to start off a league if you're looking to farm divination cards, if you're looking to target farm in order to make currency. So again, farming divination cards, it ain't much, but it's honest work. And this league during Synthesis, I believe so many players are messing around with the Synthesis mechanic and pushing Delve and even pushing Temples and even just trying to push their Atlas. I think right now for somebody that just wanted to sit down and farm divination cards Magic Find style, I don't think there's as many people doing that right now. So there's going to be an opportunity for you to make money to do that. That being said, I'm always a little reserved about giving specific tips because they always date themselves, and the instant the video comes out, the entire economy can change. It can change overnight, so take it with a grain of salt. Always do your own research before you dedicate a whole character to a particular targeted farming method. Now, as we wrap up, I'd like to show off 2 particular things. So I flashed this really quickly, this particular bow, which I showed off on the G3 community page, which of course, if you're a subscriber, you can check out the community page and comment. I usually try to post stuff on there about once a day. And this bow is not mine. It's absolutely filthy. When you look at this bow and you consider that you can throw spells into this bow and that spells scale hard off of their level, it is absolutely ridiculous to think, oh, if I get an Empower in here, depending on the level of corruption and the level of active gem that I've got either a level 30, 31, or a 32 active gem sitting inside this bow. That is absolutely ridiculous. This is a bow that is made specifically using fractured combinations in the synthesizer. Now, those combinations are available. You can look them up on PoEDB. And, of course, here's the Reddit thread from the original poster, which will, of course, be down in the video description. If you've got questions or are unsure about how synthesized mechanics work, that's fine. We've got a video for it. It'll actually be right here at the end of this video, suggested for you to be able to view, and I will tag it as well in the video description. So if you've still got questions about how synthesized mechanics work, it's totally fine. We've got you covered. All right, the last thing that we're going to look at here today before we get into some discussion points is this second really fractured combination or fractured recipe crafting combo. And found this while I was messing around on PoEDB, and a couple of us guildies have been chatting about it. This is simply a ridiculous ring modifier over here. So this is the explicit mod is over here on the left-hand side. This is what you need on rings in order to put in the synthesizer in order to predict and lock in certain outcomes. And this is the outcome. 6% increased, or potential outcome, 6% increased intelligence and gain arcane surge on hit with spells. That is a single implicit, which then you can go and craft the rest of your ring however you'd like it. That is going to be insane. Think about how expensive Elder and Shaper rings are with various curses. and with various on-hit effects. This is going to be an insanely expensive ring, and I've done a trade search for us somewhere on here for a couple of different rings. Here it is. For rings in Synthesis League that have got the fractured stat, and these are sorted by the highest intelligence rolls on the fractured item. I think this is going to be an absolute bargain for whoever can get to this market first and whoever can pump out a bunch of these rings. It's going to be an incredibly powerful ring, I think, again, because this is just the implicit that you can force onto the ring, which is very, very valuable. You can still roll all sorts of wonderful affixes, prefixes, suffixes, whether that's life, whether that's resistances, whether that's spell damage, etc. All of the normal, regular, great stuff, crit multi that you'd regularly want to roll on a ring or craft onto a ring is still going to be available to you, but just getting Arcane Surge on hit and then having a bunch of intelligence during an energy shield league, like that's very, very, very strong. And of course, if you're a Hawa build, you want to be stacking intelligence anyway, but Hawa probably doesn't really care that much about Arcane Surge. So anyway, lots of give and take here. Point being, there are lots of different ways to make money and to make currency early on this league. I think as everybody is figuring out the various list and plethora of options on PoEDB for fractured and synthesized items, of course, some of these prices are going to wildly fluctuate. Some of these prices are going to come down. Some of these prices are going to go up. These trade searches are all provided for you down below, by the way, in the video description. Here's another quick trade search for you as we conclude. This is in hardcore synthesis. This is looking for bows that are needed for this Gale Song particular +1 to level of socketed gems implicit recipe. So what you need is you need level of socketed gems in the fractured spot, and you can see there's a couple of them here. This is on hardcore synthesis. There's one here. This guy's offline for 3x. There's one here, not listed for the price. There's one this one's not even fractured. So you got to be careful as you're looking. Make sure that the mod is actually the fractured mod, because otherwise when you're putting it into the synthesizer or you're simply crafting it to get ready, you're going to lose the mod. So some of these are worth a heck of a lot more than others. This one right here is +2 to level of socketed bow gems, which is also still preferable because it can be used as a possible crafting tool for the outcome. This one over here is the same search, but it's on Synthesis Softcore. You can see there's a lot of people that have got the +1 to level of socketed gems on them, but they are not necessarily the fractured roll. So you're going to want to sort by who actually has the fractured roll as you are looking to create these, because as you scroll down, you'll actually see on some of these, it is very, very valuable. Here is one bow, the Sorrow Guide, that's got the +1 to level of socketed bow gems. That's worth 3.8x. Here's one that's got the +1 to level of socketed gems, which means you can put any spell in it, right? Any support gem in it, right? Empower in it, right? And it's going to get the +1 level. That's worth 8x right now in softcore synthesis. Then you've got the Morbid Wind, another one going for 8x. That's got the +1 level of socketed gem. And again, people aren't buying these for the rest of the stats on these. People are buying and selling these just for that implicit, because then you can go and create whatever kind of shenanigan, monster, abomination, Frankenstein creation you want. This guy's selling his for 14x. Now, he's already got the +2 to level of socketed bow gem. So if you're a bow user, that's fantastic. It's already started on its crafting journey for you. But if you're not, if you're just a spellcaster, you're probably not going to do that. And it's probably cheaper for you to simply go out and get it yourself. That being said, as I'm showing in both leagues, in both hardcore and softcore, there are not many of these bows out there. So if you get one, if one drops for you, do yourself a favor, price check it before somebody comes out and buys it out from you, from underneath you, because essentially people who are crafting these need 3 of these items, right? You need 3 of them in the synthesizer. So if you figure if something's going for, let's say, between 9 to 12x, that means each of those component bows in value is roughly 3 to 4 in its sale value, unless of course you want to cut somebody a deal because they're a guildie or a friend. So just some things to think about as we are within our first week of the Synthesis League. So love to hear from all of you down below. I enjoy our discussions that we have each and every day right here in the G3 community. How has your first week of making currency in the Synthesis League been? And what's it been like? What's surprised you maybe so far about the economy in the Synthesis League? For me, it's been orbs of annulment. I didn't think prior at any point in time, reading patch notes or checking out the hype videos for Synthesis, at any point in time did I think, oh, orbs of annulment are going to be very, very meta and very, very important in this league. I think they're going to be huge, and I think the price on them is going to skyrocket. And so I've already invested heavily in hardcore into Orbs of Annulment. But that's just me. What about you? What surprised you so far, and how has your first week been going as you're making currency in the Synthesis League? As always, leave us a comment down below and let us know how things are going for you. And I hope that today is the day you farm a Mirror of Calandra within the first week of the Synthesis League.